In our previous episode, we chatted with a local redshirt player turned captain. Today's guest in her final year comes with an Indigenous background from Ontario and has been a key inspiration to the Indigenous community and everybody here at UPEI. Please welcome, from Toronto, Ontario, fifth-year forward, Kaiya Maracle. Guest 2, Kaiya Maracle, welcome on to Inside Panthers Hockey.
Thank you for having me.
Very much appreciate your time here. Of course, right off the bat, I'm sure you've heard it many times over this season. It's your fifth year, it's your final one at UPEI. Has it really sunk in yet?
Honestly, no, it hasn't. But now that we've come into January and considering our first half is done and just right into the turnaround on our second, it is starting to hit me just with AUS regular games and with playoffs coming and everything like that. But, you know, the last 5 years I spent at UPI have probably been one of the best years of my life. So there's a lot that I'm grateful for with having this experience, and it's something that I won't look back on in a sad way, but I think in a happy way, because I'm very appreciative that it even happened, you know.
Yeah, like they're always saying, you know, time flies by.
Yeah.
So basically, so we start off with that. We're going to get back to that eventually down the road, but we're going to go back to the very beginning of your journey. You're born out of Toronto, Ontario, but of course you are an Indigenous person. You know, all across the country in the last decade or however long, very recently, especially in you know, in Canadian hockey, there's been a lot of up in education on Indigenous because, of course, you know, the original inhabitants of Canada. But can you go into your background about, you know, you being Indigenous and how you grew up in that area over in Ontario?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe, which is Mohawk and Ojibwe. And my grandmother is also Mi'kmaq, who's from Shubenacadie, Nova Scotia. And so I grew up in Toronto, Ontario, where all of my family resides on Tyendinaga Mohawk territory, or Serpent River First Nations in Ontario as well. And you know, growing up in my family, hockey has been it's a primary sport for a lot of my family members. And honestly, one of my biggest inspirations, especially, was my cousin Connor. And he actually played in the Node, which is the Northern Ontario Junior League, and he really inspired me to play that next level of hockey and brand that I want to represent eventually. And now here I am at the university, so it's weird how it all interconnects, but it does. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you know, for being Indigenous as well, getting into hockey, and it's just, you know, life in general as well. There's going to be a lot of barriers, a lot of adversity, you know, through hockey and life. Can you talk through some of those barriers that you had to go through life growing up and also getting into hockey?
Oh, yes. Well, one thing that I can remind myself is that, you know, being Indigenous in Canada, there is a part and an aspect of almost being forgotten of. I would say in the most recent years that there's been a huge change, which is amazing to see even for myself, and just to see that change, that transition over the years. It's so socially transformative, and I think that's beautiful. But then again, barriers such as, you know, even just has to do with financial burdens or, you know, family issues and such. So growing up, you know, once I got into the junior leagues, you know, my hockey then became from $7,000 to $10 grand a year just to play. And then that's not including hotels or tournament fees or drives, gas and everything like that. So there's those types of burdens, especially coming from a single mother home. So, you know, my family they did their best for me to be in my position that I am today, and I'm forever grateful for it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of influence from your parents, and you know, they put in a lot to ensure that, you know, you had a good life and were, you know, able to successfully get into hockey talk more about that influence and some of the lessons that they instilled in you to, be able to go through life successfully as an Indigenous person.
Yeah, commitment and like dedication and hard work and, pushing through. Those were like key character traits that I believe were instilled in me from a time I was young. My dad used to get up at like 6 a.m. to come and drive me to practice or take me to practice, and always did their best to just help me push and stay focused. Like there's times like back in high school where it'd be like Halloween weekend and everybody wants to go party, but I have a hockey tournament. And that's just completely changing my focus, the narrative of where I want to be. Even though I wanted to be with my friends, I still had my commitment to hockey, right? And I think that was like something that even now it shows as I'm a fifth year in university, right?
And you start playing hockey at 6 years old in Ontario, went through a couple different programs before you eventually committed to UPEI. I mean, that's a big step in your journey, having to move far away from home, from your family who again had so much influence on you, and being able to get to you to where you are at right now. But what went into that decision to get away?
That's a great question, actually. So I was thinking about this the other day, but when I was reflecting on how long I've been here, actually, and one of the biggest things was, taking that courage, taking that step to be, hockey was my first love. So I think that I'll always be able to follow it anywhere it goes, whether that's over the pond, over in Europe, or if it's going to be across the country, then it is what it is, right? And my passion for hockey, my drive to stay playing was ultimately the choice where I was like, I can go to UPI and I can play. And I felt welcomed as soon as I came here, and just the whole culture of the program in itself was something that really tied me over. And I think that was my ultimate decision maker, where I kind of always reassured my factor. It's like, if I don't like it, I can just go home. But the thing was, I loved it and I didn't want to go home. Now I'm here, So it definitely was a huge change, but something that I'll never forget.
What was it about Prince Edward Island in Atlantic Canada, UPEI here specifically? What was it about here that convinced you to move all the way over here?
Honestly, the summers. Yeah, the summers are beautiful here. I grew up in Toronto, in the beaches my whole life, so I've been surrounded by nothing but chaos. When I finally was able to drive on a road where I didn't feel the anxiety or the pressure of just somebody trying to get there faster than me, I realized that this was a very content, open, beautiful environment that I just want to stay in. And yeah.
And for the first couple of years here at UPEI, both on and off the ice, you had your flashes of brilliance, you had your ups and downs, an impressive playoff run, especially in your sophomore season as well. But navigating through your first years as a Panther and experiencing those ups and downs, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think the one thing, if I could go back and talk to myself, I think I would just tell myself to stay, a little bit more focused on just what's important to you, and kind of let the adversity, let the interrupting factors kind of all play out in their own external way. Don't internalize it. And I think I can specifically say that towards focusing more on my academics and focusing more on just the hockey piece of growing as a program. And the thing is, though, it's in my first and second year, I was still growing as a person. I was growing right into my young adulthood and everything like that. And I just feel like there's just more of a focus that could be shed in those first 2 years and how important they are, because I had one of my seniors, one of my vets, tell me, it goes by like this, Kaiya. And now I'm in that position, and I can say that is 100% true.
It was in 2024 when you declared yourself eligible with Indigenous nationality for the Professional Women's Hockey League draft. That must have been a big deal, right?
Definitely within the Indigenous community, yes. And so the way that the draft worked was you can just throw your name in, and that's what I had done, but it's to declare the eligibility, because you are only given 2 eligibilities. So if you declare that eligibility for that draft, technically you've already used up 1. So I discontinued from it because I wasn't actually I was coming back here for my 4th year. And and within like the Indigenous community, I feel like, just like from Indigenous Hockey Canada, they definitely have produced me on that track, where they have been keeping up with me being at UPI and everything like that. And I think that's just the support of our youth that are up and coming, because there are many other Indigenous players that, even in the AUS, that I played against. Lily George, she came from UNB. Jana Hedrick, she was at UNB. She was the assistant captain at U of T as well. So there's a lot, even though it is very limited, there is great Indigenous representation for women's hockey as well.
And, being Indigenous as well, someone like you, I'm sure, you like to be a role model, and you like to maybe educate others about where you came from, the journey that you've come along on, and, trying to be a role model for young Indigenous females who might want to get into the sport. Have you played a role in that, particularly over the years at UPEI, maybe educating the coaching staff, educating the players along the way, anything like that? Having my Indigenous background is something I will always be proud of, and it's something that I do carry with my heart and my spirit, with who I am. But I've always tried my best to explain a little bit of just my own teachings and my own ways with the groups, and that it doesn't come with a direct teaching where it's like, this is what honesty is, this is what humility is. I say it in situational ways where they can understand, and I think that it does resonate with people. And being on the team that I am now, I've never been on such a close-knitted team. I haven't, and that's something that I'm so appreciative of. And that's because of the girls that have come into our program, and the girls that have stayed with our program. We all see each other on the same plane. We're all together. And I think that when it comes to these situational places where I have to kind of come in a good way to show how we can, either resolve a conflict or how we can talk things out, that they're all just open ears, and they all just, even though it's not directly teaching and Indigenous teaching, it comes from our sharing circles when we're all in the dressing room and we're all talking about what we think about this play, or what we think about this, practice, or like what we can think about like with our units, right? And it's just like, it's an open discussion. It's so everybody is on that same level, right? And I'm sure it helped to eventually be awarded assistant captain too, right?
Yeah, that was unexpected. I wasn't too aware of that, actually, and something that it's always been a dream of mine as well.
Yeah, indeed. And it was last season when statistically you had your breakout season, 17 points in 27 games. You tied a couple other players for the most goals on the team with 7. Of course, there was a tough playoff miss in there, but you had quite a big step up last year, obviously. So how about that?
Honestly, it was just my transition year. It was the year that I had, I stayed out on the island for my first summer, from my 3rd year to my 4th year, and I think that honestly really helped with who I was as a person independently. I was working out here by myself. I had just gotten my car. And I think that in that aspect I grew as a person, and I think that really helped me in my 4th year of that transition, growing as to know who I am, and ultimately it just shaped me for who I am today, right now, right? And that, I would say my confidence was the one big thing. And I also talked to Danny McDonald, and he is amazing.
Of course, there's this season, 5th and final year, where you get 3 games into the regular season, and then the MCL decides to go. You got the MCL tear, and it had everybody and yourself thinking that this was it. For your final year, you were done. Just like that, it was over. What was going through your mind at that time?
I think everything, honestly. From the time I was young, from the very first time that I started playing hockey, I was going through all of that. I was going through the motions of being positive and sticking to a regimen and going to physio, and then I realized that how much time that's going to take, and then I started putting myself a little bit too far ahead of myself. But without the support of my team or the coaching staff or the resources that are provided from our program, I don't think that I would have recovered the way that I had. Harrison at physio, he is just an amazing physician. Like, he was able to really help me and get back into the game and prepared me, you know, for what was to come. And thus being my first game back with St. FX this year, back in the home rink where I had initially injured my MCL. And that was just short of, I think, 3 months ago. And I was looking to, I think 9 to 12 weeks, my physician said, about my knee, and potentially longer. But, you know, yeah, it was devastating. It was devastating.
And do you mind saying exactly what happened to cause it?
Yeah, so I was slew-footed along the boards on the hash marks. And when I had fallen back, I was trying to get up, and she had fallen on top of me. So my knee she had fallen on the outside of my knee, which caused my knee to bend inward. And then, I felt a nice cold feeling down my leg, and then had to skate off.
And when you came back, how surprised was everybody?
I think very. Even my own parents. Sean was very happy, so I was happy with that. But yeah, it was very unexpected. It was something that I had taken very seriously, though. So I couldn't straighten my leg for the first 3.5 weeks after the injury, and then once I started to be able to. It became a little bit more worked in, and then that's when I decided that, you know, the following week I wanted to get back out on the ice. And I don't know, I've always been very hard-headed when it comes to injuries. It was an adjustment. Yeah. I can't say that injuries are something that I will just sit back and relax on. It's something that I will push and work towards to get better in recovery.
And for all the games that you have been able to play, only 2 of them have been here at the MAC. And go figure, both of them have been big victories. You shut out UMB to start off the year, and then there's the first half closer, 8-2 against Mount Taliesin, the Autograph Alley deal that was going on there, seeing all the kids happy and everything. And I'm sure that fueled you very much whenever you did come back into play. But to be back on home ice, playing in front of the home crowd, what does that mean to you? How does that fuel you going into the rest of the second half, I should say, because there was that loss against St. FX. St. FX, we won't talk about that, but you know what I mean. Talk about that.
Yeah, honestly, it's the excitement, it's the inspiration, even from the young ones. You know, like, all those girls are playing in their own minor league, just like, you know, thinking potentially maybe even coming here or playing at another university. And I think that's something that love, it's so pure that it honestly inspires me in a way where it's just like, I want to go out there, I want to show them, you know, it's possible. Anything's possible.
For maybe some people out there who maybe are just starting to get tuned into the success that you girls are having, what kind of player should they expect you to be? What kind of player do you want to be going into this final half of your run here at UPEI?
Honestly, for myself, I've always had a major strength, which was my skating. And coming back with the injury of my knee, that's something that I've always tried to maintain. And I just want to be, you know, a very hardworking, smart hockey player out there. You know, I'm going to skate as much as I can with the motions that I'm limited to, but, you know, that all comes. It'll come back, and you know, I just really want to play with a smart hockey IQ, because if there's one way that we're going to beat a lot of these big powerhouse teams, it's going to be situational hockey. It's going to be working as a unit, simple.
Would it be fair to say, looking at your statistics over past years and this year as well, would the penalty minutes maybe indicate a bit of a grit there?
Oh, I've always been a gritty hockey player. Actually, so I played boys hockey growing up. And then when I made the switch to girls, I led the league in penalty minutes. But that's because I could hit in my league when I was playing boys. So I've always naturally had that, and a lot of girls do not like me in the league.
Oh.
and that's okay, you know what I mean? I wouldn't like me either. I play hard. I'm hard on the boards. So I'm not a dirty player, though. That's something that I do keep value to myself. I'm not a dirty player. But if you try to hit me, you will fall, and I will get a penalty. It always happens.
Be aware of Kaiya Maracle. Yeah. To young Indigenous girls out there who may be aspiring to play hockey, perhaps they could be a future Panther, could have been any one of them down there in that game against Mount Taliesin. What would be your message to them?
My message to them would be just never give up. Always believe in yourself. You know, I was always told from a young age, if you believe it, you can achieve it. And from that age, you know, my aspiration was to play university hockey because at the time that was the highest level you could go to play for women's hockey. And, you know, I had many people doubt me over the years, as well as with my academic piece. And then I bear down on that. I took my academics just as seriously as I took sport. And if there's like one thing that I have to say is that no dream is too small, and you can do anything you put your mind to. And there will be limitations and there will be barriers along the way, but that's just who we are as people. It's going to happen. Adversity will always happen, but you can always do what you want to do. So dream big.
And bleed green.
And bleed green.
Indeed. Well, Kaiya, it's been a pleasure talking with you here today for episode number 2 here of Inside Panthers Hockey. Very, very inspiring answers out of you. I know for the Indigenous community on Prince Edward Island, all across Canada, I'm sure a lot of people look up to you very much as a role model, and certainly you do a heck of a job at it. So thank you very much for the time today. The best of luck the rest of the way, and let's go get them tomorrow and Saturday.
That. Thank you so much.